Welcome to our channel. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Mike with Zippy Snap, and I hope we can craft a kinder, more creative world together. Today we're going to make this MLK Civil Rights Cube display. One of the cool things about this, if you didn't notice, this is a four-sided cube and it's a back and front. So on the one side you have Martin Luther King Jr.'s office with a quote from him that says, "Will not be judged by the color of their skin. Martin Luther King Jr., 1963, a statue of Martin Luther King Jr. And then on the back side, you have the Lincoln Memorial where he did his speech in 1963 that says, "All men are created equal, Abraham Lincoln, 1863. So 100 years between these two people, and you can see they both were saying the same message, that people should be created equal. So as part of the civil rights, we have right in here, you have a four-sided cube. And you can adjust it and put it, and it's actually designed so the message on each side will be visible and facing the correct way, no matter what message you created. So there are four of the events through the civil rights movement that we chose to display on here. The first one is, of course, the "I Have a Dream," Martin Luther King Jr., with a photo of his memorial. And that was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, August 28th, 1963. Another one that we had on there was separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. That was stated in the Supreme Court on Brown versus the Board of Education on May 17th, 1954. And this is one of the schools that was as part of one of the cases. And then on one of the other sides, it says, "I voted." It prohibited discrimination voting practices. That was the Voting Rights Act. That was signed by President Johnson on August 6, 1965. And then last we have the Civil Rights Act, which was also signed by President Johnson. That's a photo of him signing it on July 2nd, 1964. And it outlawed segregation, integrated schools, and prohibited discrimination. So some very big milestones as part of the civil rights movement. And this would be a great piece you can display and put in here and show everything. So it's a really wonderful craft. Having said that, on the difficulty meter, I would give this a 3 out of 5. This means that it is a medium craft. You can download this craft template from zippysnap.com. The tools we'll be using today are scissors and tape. So with these tools nearby, let's get to crafting. So to start the craft here, we have 3 pages. We have 2 sides, which are right here, the 2 sides of the craft. Exterior, and then we have the cube, I'll call it, on the inside with the 4 rights. So we'll start with the side with Abraham Lincoln's Memorial, which is where the March on Washington speech from Martin Luther King Jr. took place in 1963. The "I Have a Dream" speech was first heard here, is my understanding. And one important thing to note is Abraham Lincoln was one of our presidents, and in 1863, 100 years before the "I Have a Dream" speech, he said all men are created equal. So it's interesting. You can have the same message 100 years apart, and they still be wanting equality, and it still wasn't gained. You know, if it was me, I would want everyone to be treated equally as well. But sometimes in life, things are harder than we like to get what we want. Something as simple as equality, which isn't simple, but you think it would be. You would hope it would be, at least, but it's not. People treat people not fairly. I'm sure you can even point to an instance in your life where you don't feel like you've been treated fairly, and it hurts. It hurts. You know, you feel upset, and something that we just, as society, as everyone in life, you really don't want that to happen. All right, so we have it cut out, but now we have this line here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the dashed line here, but then we're also going to cut down this edge and this edge as well. We are not going to cut the bottoms and the top. Don't cut those. So to do that, how I like to do it is I like to line these up, do just a little point push right there, and then while holding it kind of tight, we're going to give it a little bit of a cut. I'm not going to cut far, just far enough so my scissors can get in there. And then once my scissors are able to get in there, I'm going to let them finish the job. And then the hard part's going to be kind of creating this little turn, as I call it. we want to do a turn right there, and then we're going to, so I cut to the bottom, now we're going to cut to the top, and sometimes I'll leave a little piece of white right there. This is the moment to get it. So I got it right there. I don't know if you noticed it. And if you got it overcut just a hair, that's fine. And this is just going to fold in. That's why it's like that. And then same here. We're going to cut this way. There we go. And we're going to cut this way. So this might be one of my favorite displays that I've made. I'm going to go ahead and fold this in and fold this way. I haven't made a display quite as intricate as this, any others like this yet. The cube, the calendar clock, that was pretty cool, but this is a variation of it, and I like that it's display. You can see it on both sides, which is really cool in my opinion. So we're just folding all these sides in, and so now that we have them all folded, this is kind of what you're going to look like. Yeah, these two folded there, all the edges folded, and there we go. So now we're going to do I call this the front. The reason Martin Luther King got put to the second page was because these flaps were too big. He would have been on the first page, but I wanted him to look the best since it is Martin Luther King Jr. Series, and we're coming up on the holiday for him. So I wanted him to be front and foremost, but he is the second page of our PDF, but that's not to be lost. He was exterior side 1. I just wanted him to look the best. And this is a photo from, I believe, his study or office that he worked out of. So that's kind of an interesting setup. You can see kind of how he came up with. He had to write all those speeches, and that was a long speech. It was not short. So you kind of get a glimpse into his life here. And to my understanding, I think this is somewhere you can still go and see. And then that's a statue of him also. All right. We'll just cut the bottom here. And then this edge. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the last front, what I call the back side, the Abraham Lincoln side. We're going to come right in here and cut this line. So we're going to again fold it just gently, just in the center here, just where this line is. Make sure you're lined up. So I like to line up these edges back here before I get the cut, and then I like to give a nice hold, watching your fingers for careful. And we're going to just cut it long enough so my scissors can get in there. And we're going to uncut it, give it a little push so that it doesn't stay folded, because we don't actually want it folded. We just want it long enough so we can sneak our scissors in there. And I kind of cut short there, so I'm just going to overcut it a little. That's fine. And we're just cutting to the top and the bottom, and then same over here. We're going to go to this side. And we're going to cut. Now you don't want to undercut this one by any means, which means you don't want to leave the white space because that cube's a little tight. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing we did on the last one, which is just fold all those edges in. And you can, once you fold them, you can unfold them. You don't have to fold them on top of each other. Just enough so that you have a fold line. It's easy to refold a fold line than to create a new fold line while your hand, the craft's in a strange position, as I'll say. It's okay to overfold this just a hair. There we go. So now all of these are in the way. So we have these two fronts. They're going to come together in a minute. So we have the cube. I'm going to go ahead and cut the cube out, and we'll assemble the cube. And then I'll cut we have an interior housing for the cube. So when you do this cube, just remember these flaps here. These are for the edge of the cube, the little dash lines. So just make sure you cut around them. There we go. Just like that. be careful not to cut this side over here yet. We'll come back and do that last, or towards the end. All right. We're just preparing all the materials. I like to put it all together at once. That way you don't get lost in the step. So we'll come back and put it all together. Think of a way you could treat someone maybe better. You treat people fair, and you can also go out of your way to help people. That's always a good thing too. All right, so each of these parts of the cube we're just going to fold over. So I'm going to fold this side over, and then I'm going to unfold it. And then same here. There's a little white portion here, which is just a tape tab. We're going to fold that, and then we're going to come over here, and you'll barely be able to see this one. I can barely see it. This is a white line, so just try and do your best. Fold it like that, and then you can open that back up. We'll get this last fold right here. Trying to make it a four-sided, or I guess a rectangular dice is what we're trying to do. And then before we tape these together, we're going to fold these two edges just in. But then it's very important, pull them back out. If you don't pull them back out, you'll feel some pain from that later, because it's hard to take them back out. So I'm going to put the tape with the sticky side up on this back side of this tab. I'm going to hold that in with this finger, and then bring this, you want to line this edge to the edge right here, and try and line it up as best you can. And then kind of let that sit. I didn't do a great job on that. I can already feel it. So that's okay. Get another chance. We're going to come and do this side now. Again, I like to hold my finger on the sticky side, and then with my other hand, hold it there, and then take my finger off the sticky side. Now, since this is the toughest side, I'm going to put a piece of tape right on the front edge of it. And now's a great time to do it before I fold these two edges in on the sides of putting it right here, because you can just hold it flat. And if you hold that piece flat, it's way better to get a lot of the stickiness in. So we got all the stickiness there. So now I'm going to puff that back up, and then on this flap here, very important, put the piece of tape on it, make sure it's secure right there first, and then you can come in here, and I like to pinch is what I call it. And we'll do the same on this side. Put that there, come in, and I'm just lining these sides up, and we're going to pinch, and there we go. We have our dice block with the 4 civil rights movements. So now we're going to come in here, and what I think I would like to do first is we're going to do the interior housing. So on this dice block here, you see this interior is the same color. It's right as the outside edges. So that's because we basically are going to make a little house for the cube. So that's made out of these parts. So we're going to cut this out and make a little home for the cube. It's a little bit of an artistic design. So make sure we leave that little bit of white because that's a tape tab. And so there's one side of it, and then there's a second side right here. We're going to, you see, I even call it inside home of the cube. That's exactly what it is. So we're just going to cut that out. And so you can see, so this is actually not the outside of the, so we want all the color to be towards the inside, if that makes sense. So when we fold it, we want all the color on the inside of the fold. So what that means is we want to fold all the folds inside. So there's a little white line here. We're going to fold that inside. And it's a little hard to see. Sometimes if you look, you can kind of cheat and see the white on the edges. If you're looking at those angles, that's about how we want it to look. And then same right here, we're going to fold this inside. It's a very little fold. And then same right here, we're going to want to fold that one inside like that. Okay, so I have a little piece of tape, And this is the idea. It's going to look like that. If that makes sense to you. Now the folds are going to be on the outside. So this little white piece, I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape on it, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to join it to this piece, which is the small piece on the other side. And I'm just lining these up as best as I can. And then we'll let that piece of tape sit. And then I'm going to do the same here. This has that little white tab on this side. This is the tape tab. We're going to bring that tape piece right here. And again, line that up. It's kind of important that you get those lined up right. So this is what you want it to look like. You have white on the outside, the color is going to be on the inside. And that's going to go sit into this little home. So you can kind of imagine it. This is your cube, and that's the home of your cube. You can kind of mess with it too. If it doesn't fit in there now, it's not going to fit in there later. So good time to play with that. Okay, so to then start putting this outside, well, we're gonna put the inside part together. It's way easier to do this part inside than it is to do it later because you can't access it. So laying down one side, so I'm starting with the Martin Luther King Jr. side. I'm just going to make sure that this is pushed all the way down, and then make sure that these flap edges that we cut are approximately the right side, right to left, because you don't want this to be off by a little bit. And we'll flip it to the other side. I'm going to do again the same tape side like that, and I'm just taping this side right here to there. So now you can see right here. If you see these edges pulling down, you can also pick out a piece of tape and we can just bring it right along the front. Now's a good time to do that. I know it brings tape to your project, but you'd rather have tape there than it not work. And like, so I can see this side's lifting up. And I go ahead and put a piece of tape here. You're also able to pinch it a little easier at this moment. Can't pinch it as well once it's taped together. So I put 3 pieces of tape. You can see how well. So now this cube should still fit in there. Yeah, it fits in there. Perfect. So now going the other way, again, we want the white tabs on the outside. So I'm just lifting that up. And this is a very hard one to video. So I'm going to flip it up so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm going to come in, put a piece of tape here on the bottom side of the Lincoln Memorial, bring it down, and I'm just taping it down right there. It's not the again, I'm going to do that on this other side of the Lincoln Memorial. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I can barely see it, so there we go. And then we'll do the top side, because this is the right width. And these 2 pieces, by the way, should join up and be right next. You know, they should be one full sheet is effectively where those cut marks should have been for reference between the 2 sides. So there we go. We have that. And now we're going to do the same thing we did before, which is look at the front. And I can see a little bit more white. That's okay. We're just going to add a little bit of tape. This side's going to need probably a little bit more tape. That's why I did this side second. And you can see this side's lifting up way down here. Not a lot you can do about that other than just put some tape over it. And try to make sure that tape's really well adhered, which just means give it a firm push and make sure it's not coming off. Like that. So now, again, good time to test the cube. Cube went right through it, so that's perfect. Sometimes you might have to put some tape on your cube, but that works really great. Cube goes right in, right out. All right, so then we just have these edges here, and the big edges are the Martin Luther King edges. I'm gonna basically just tape those big edges right onto the top. So I'm just gonna line it up on the edge right here, and I'm just gonna tape it right over, just like that. And again, just take it right here, line it up, give it a little pinch. That's all we're doing. And I'm going to do the bottom last. So we'll go, this is the top. Now I'm not even worried about the small one, these ones that are in here. you can try and line those up or have those taped, but it's kind of hard to access. And so I'm even going to try to tape this side. Sometimes it's easier if you get one piece taped. Like I pushed on that first, then came up here. It's just, it's a little, this is a tough one to tape. Maybe it's a little bit more than a medium of a craft, but it's such a cool craft. I didn't want to dissuade people by saying it was too hard, because it's such a great craft to do. It really is. It's a fun one. So much pictures, so much good color on it in terms of all the images just relate so well. Variation. All right, so on the bottom, you can see I'm just kind of putting it on one side, then on the other. So if you push it onto one piece, then on the other one. The bottom's not going to be, the bottom's okay if it's a little bit loose. That's why I did that one last. And then there's one more piece right here I'm going to get just on there. And now you can see we have our piece. It's okay if the bottom's a little loose. The bottom you won't see. It's just going to stand. And your cube we can then put in. You can choose which side you want for which side. So if I want the Civil Rights Act here, and it'll just go in. So if you put it in one side, it won't go in. You have to put it in both sides like that. And now you have it where it can be seen on both sides. So that's pretty nifty. Thank you so much for crafting with me today. I hope it brought you joy and helped your creativity grow. Always remember that you matter and you are valued. I look forward to creating our next craft together very soon. Goodbye.